In April, Central Library hosted a program celebrating the publication of a new book on the library's history. Commissioned by the Library Foundation, Stacks by Skip Berry and Mary Ellen Gadski provides a cultural and social history of the Indianapolis Public Library. Stacks was available to purchase at the event, and several of those instrumental in its publication were on hand to sign it.
The library has played such an instrumental part in the cultural history of Indianapolis, and not that that was a surprise. It's something I certainly knew on an anecdotal basis, but just finding out through research and through conversations with people just how large a role the library has played over its 137 years of history was really let's say it was a pleasant surprise. In this instance and in every other cultural history that I've done, one of the things that I always ask ahead of time is, how much of the truth do we want to tell about the organization? And this particular history was no different than any other that's come before it, in that the people that I was working directly with and for gave me basically carte blanche to tell the truth the way that I found it, and the parameters that I set for myself is, if it was on the public record, then it was fair game to make it in the final manuscript. If what I was discovering were things that were going on and were only known internally, then that not so much, unless it affected what was happening on a public level. But I'd have to say that commission works, if you handle them correctly, are no more different than any other sort of historical research you're doing, if you are able to get the people you're working with to agree that it's more important to tell the truth than to do a PR gloss. I think it came out, in many ways, it came out even better than I had hoped when we set out to do it. When you set out to do one of these projects, you have a vision in your head of what you hope it will be, but you're not really sure at that point. And this turned out to be many times over even better than I had hoped.
It's similar to other projects in that we've done, in that it's an institutional history, but we always try to find what's unique about the institution and play up that part of it too. So here we were really looking at, what is unique about the library, the Indianapolis Library? How can we apply that to the design? And I think there are elements throughout the book that at least attempt to do that. Those pages that you mentioned are the book plates too, and Skip had uncovered those, and they weren't really integral to the history of the institution, but we really wanted to include them. So we came up with this idea of using a wallpaper type of motif where they're all kind of grouped together, and we put them in the front and the back of the book, and we realized that's exactly where someone would place a book plate. So that led us to think about other conventions of library books that we could play around with.
Mary Ellen Gadski had a lot to do with getting the photographs together, and then Chris Marshall was very, very helpful, and just the collection itself really helped us out a lot. I felt that we had an embarrassment of riches for the most part. It was difficult to choose oftentimes, so I felt that, there were some challenges, but I would say overall it was more fun for us than anything.
Both of the authors were heavily involved in the photo research, and the images come not only from the library collection, but from the State Library and the Historical Society and institutions in other states as well. So all over the place. We even found images on Flickr too, from amateur photographers as well.
Well, Skip asked me if I'd just read it because I'd worked with him on other projects, and I said sure. And I told him earlier that I was amazed that a history of a library could be as gripping as he managed to make it. Not that it wasn't not that the facts weren't gripping, but to present them in such a way that you realized the dynamics in the community, the back and forth, who's for it, who's against it, and why, and the politics and all of that was very, very exciting. So my contribution, if there was one, was to be sort of picky and argue with him about words and sentences and so on, which was not really what he asked me to do, and I'm not all that good at it, but I couldn't help myself. It was almost like reading a mystery. What's going to happen next? You could see things coming, and the personalities and the conflicts and the rules and the way the library interacted with the community and what was expected in terms of dress and behavior of people coming to use the library. It was really fascinating social history that talks about more than just the institution. It talked about the city and its dynamic and how that worked in connection with the library.
Stax is available for purchase through the Library Foundation. Just call 275-4700 to place an order.